Hi there, Kathy Heckendorn with Cape, New Mexico. And as we continue our video series today, I'd like to visit with you about what I call homeschool killers. Maybe I should say how to avoid the homeschool killers. So I'm just going to be really honest when I'm doing this video today, and you're going to get to see the real life story of what it was like in the Heckendorn household and homeschooling. So when I first started homeschooling, this is what I thought my little life was going to look like. Everything was just going to go so smoothly. Talk about being a romantic. And I just really envisioned the June Cleaver kind of, the beautiful just sitting at the end of the day. And in reality, this is how I really felt. I felt like I was such a homeschool failure. I just could not get it all together until I listened to some older women that shared what they were doing that was successful, and I implemented some of these things that I hope will encourage and help you on your journey as well. To avoid the homeschool killer, prepare your home. What do I mean by that? Meal prep. Mealtime happens in my house 3 times a day, or it did. My kids are grown, they're gone. But 3 times a day, my kids wanted to be fed. They wanted to be fed snacks. It didn't seem to matter that I just fed them supper last night. I fed them supper for a whole week, all last week. They still wanted to be fed supper. And to avoid eating pizza constantly, I had to start doing some things so that I could be on top of the game, shall we say. For me, and I wish that I'd had this when my kids were younger, but man, I absolutely love grocery store pickup. I'm so thrilled. Smith's, Sprouts, Walmart, all of these do online shopping. Costco, if you're not aware of it, you can get 2-day delivery for a lot of the non-perishable items from Costco, and just saving myself the trip to Costco has been huge for me. So try to take advantage of some of those kind of shopping inside the home and in your pajamas with your computer to save you some time so that you can maybe have little moments for your sanity checks. Do your ordering while you're sipping a cup of tea at the end of the day. Look at some meal plans. They don't have to be fancy. My family, I was very fortunate. My family is happy eating about 10 different meals, and then we'll try a new recipe every now and then. But just go ahead and find some type of menu plan that will work. And there are a lot of them out there on Pinterest. Just Google menu plans and just find something that works for you. Don't forget to add in things like snacks. Account for those so that you've got the things handy and you're ready to go. Maybe you have a birthday coming up this week that you're going to be celebrating. Go ahead and plan for those things just so you don't get yourself caught off guard. Pizza is great, but after a while, you really get tired of having to eat pizza constantly because you realize, we're going to have chicken and I never took it out of the freezer, or the hamburger's frozen, or whatever it is. So meal prep, the laundry monster. I'm going to admit there were days that homeschool onto mama's bed because it didn't get folded, didn't get put away until I started utilizing everybody's help. Maybe you assign a different child to do the laundry, or maybe what you do is what I did in my house. And as soon as they hit 7 or 8 and they could figure out, you could teach them how to use the washer and dryer, they were in charge of their laundry. Give everybody an assigned laundry day. They have use of the washing machine that day. And if they fail to use it, well, that's a great life lesson. Life is full of things like that you either do the things that you need to do when you ought to be doing them, or there are consequences. So find ways that you can get around that so that you're not finding yourself looking for some kind of clean pair of socks as you're running out the door for a doctor's appointment. Order in the house. Chores. Split the work up. If you're new to having everybody at home and you've been public school or private school for years, and now all of a sudden you find everybody in the house constantly, things get dirty faster. And it isn't just mom's job to take care of everything. So start assigning. And if your child can pull things out of the cabinet, they can put them into the cabinet. It's just a matter of training. And sometimes that might be the best thing to do for school, is to just sit there and do some training with chores. I did different kind of chore charts, and this child might be the one that was in charge of the bathroom. And maybe they'd never cleaned a toilet before. That's not a problem. The first few times that they'd clean the toilet, I would walk them through it, and then I watched them do it, and then I left them to it. So just figure out what works for your family. Lots of different chore charts that you can find out there. I did it on Word. I did it on Excel. I even typed up very, very specifics. If you're cleaning in your bedroom, what are some specific things you need to do? Pick up all of the dirty laundry. Pick up the shoes and put them in the closet. Pick up all of the Legos. Pick up the stuffed animals and put them where they belong. Those helped for some of my children that were very, very specific oriented. Just find something that works for you and your family. Just don't make a burden for yourself, because you want this journey to be something that you can enjoy. And again, I said in the previous video on preparing your home day-to-day life, make this a journey of learning, not just book work, but learning skills that our children need as they become adults and they move on into their own homes, apartments, whatever. All of these things are excellent opportunities to teach our children. And then there's fiscal stability. You know, for a lot of families that I've talked with, to have one parent at home means now a loss of income. And that's the way it was for my husband and I when we chose to homeschool. I had been a school teacher for several years before, and all of a sudden we eliminated that extra income. So that meant things like meal prep really did become important, because there wasn't the extra money to go eat out on a regular basis. Even finding curriculum, just practice those things. The more stress you can relieve from yourself, the easier all of this homeschooling is going to be for you going forward. After you've prepared your home, you need to guard your school. What do I mean by that? Wow, you know, once we were homeschooling, all of a sudden there were so many opportunities for how we could spend our time. And there were so many opportunities for how we could spend our time that had nothing to do with school. Because as much as I like to say we can learn constantly, that doesn't mean that we don't still sit down and do math, or that we don't still sit down and do our science and history lesson. We still need to do those things. But activities outside of the home, even getting together with grandma and grandpa, all of a sudden can just totally take away the time that you need to spend at home working on schoolwork. So just limit those activities. Don't get rid of them completely, but just make sure that you're still having time at home for school. And then that leads into block off time for school and let people know this is our school time. Way back when, long before Facebook and whatnot, we had answering machines on, and you could hear the answering machine. Some of you are old enough to remember that. And I just got to where I had to make myself screen calls, because that quick chat with a friend could turn into an hour and a half later that we just never did school that morning. And I think especially nowadays, gosh, you can get onto any social media. And I don't know about you, but next thing I know, I look and I realize I have been on Facebook for 2 hours, or I've been scrolling through Pinterest for 2 hours. And if I had kids still at home, that would have been 2 hours that we hadn't been doing school. So being able to set aside and say, cell phones over here, computers, whatever over here, and now this is school time. And however that works for you, maybe it's saying from 8 in the morning till noon, this is our school time, or whatever works for you, afternoon, but just set aside. And really, if you were working, you set aside time for work. It's important that we set aside and block off that time for school. Block off breaks. When we were homeschooling, if my husband had to travel with work, we just considered that a school break, and we would travel with him. Take advantage of, and of course I know traveling right now is who knows what that's going to look like, but should you continue with the homeschool journey, just know that it's okay to block off that time. There are so many opportunities to learn outside of the book work. Here we go again with that learning, and take advantage of those, but just make sure that you block them off and you don't find yourself toting tons of books when you're not going to be using them. Plan for the hard times. It isn't a matter of if, but when. There will be challenging days. There may be days where you have half of your kids sick with a cold or a stomach bug. School just isn't going to happen like you planned, which means all of the work that you did on prepping your lessons, that's out the door, and you're just sitting there snuggling and taking care of sick children. Just know that there are going to be those times. And it may just be that you have a child that it has nothing to do with illness. It just simply has to do with they're struggling with a particular, maybe it's in math. All of a sudden, they just kind of hit a brick wall and they can't seem to move beyond that. And it's so frustrating as you try different ways to teach this concept and they're just not getting it. So what do you do when those hard times happen? Ask for help. Maybe you need the other parent to come in and try to teach this particular lesson. Sometimes having somebody else come in and teach something, all of a sudden the light bulb is there and they get it and they move on. Maybe it's simply taking a short break from that particular subject for that child. We did that numerous times. If we hit a wall in a subject, we would just take off for a week. Just take off for a week. And all of a sudden, the next week, we'd come back to it, and that child would look at it going, oh, yeah, I know how to do this. And it would not be any big deal. But we could have been pushing, and not made any progress. And just that little bit of a break was one of the best pieces of advice that we ever had. So ask people for help. Find a mentor. Find somebody who's been homeschooling longer than you have. Ask them what were things that they did during those hard times. Maybe it's simply, you know what, when we just started struggling with school, we switched things up and we started stopping at 10 in the morning and taking a walk when it was still cool. Or maybe we would stop and we would go out and do some nature drawing the flowers or just different things. Just find a mentor and just get some different ideas. Find a support group. I know that this is going to be a lot harder right now as we're limited in numbers, but there are support groups and co-ops that are trying to look forward to the upcoming school year and offer some different classes and things like that. Those are not only great for the kids, they are an absolute must, in my opinion, for mom. Just to be able to visit with some other parents and find out, what are you doing, what's working, what's not working? Hey, am I the only one who's totally about to pull all their hair out? There is something in knowing you are not alone in this crazy journey of homeschooling. And it's so easy, I think, especially today with Facebook, to think that everybody's life is just going so smoothly and I'm the only one struggling. And once you get with some other women, you discover, no, everybody has their own challenges. They may be slightly different from yours, but they're struggling just like you are. So look for a support group. CAPE has, every time we have some type of CAPE activity, we try to gather information on different support groups. So if you're in a different part of the state, even if you're in the Albuquerque, East Mountain area, if you will reach out to CAPE, we've got a spot on our website that has information on support groups. And if you'll email us and where you're at, we will do our best to locate somebody. Maybe we can just find a mentor, but we want to try to help you find somebody or a group of homeschoolers that can help you with this journey. And most importantly, I want to tell you, don't throw in the towel. Just retreat and circle the wagons. Literally, we would just sometimes take breaks in the middle of our planned school year because we needed just a sanity check. And that's what we called it, circling the wagons. And sometimes just circling the wagons, and maybe just the house had become chaotic, and being able to take a couple of days to just do some deep cleaning and get things back in order, or maybe to get a few meals in the freezer, just helped the homeschool go so much better. If I would have just stopped and taken a break sooner, I might not even have hit that point where I just wanted to retreat away from anybody and everybody. So just know that you're not alone. Everybody is going to have challenges. Plan for those hard times, but just stick with it, folks. Reach out to us at CAPE. Find us on Facebook. We want to do whatever we can to help support you during this journey. Look forward to visiting with you with the next video. Be sure and send us some questions. Ask us anything you want on Facebook, YouTube, and we'll do our best to give a little bit of help for it. If we can help in any way, and it may be something as little as we'll pray for you, something as big as we'll pray for you. But we look forward to hearing how things are going for you, and I appreciate you joining us on these videos.